Does anyone know about, and I've just started to do it, the Marginalian, the newsletter? Do you know about this?
Yes, I love it.
It's Maria Popova. She twice a week puts out quotes to some of us that maybe travel through hardship and through, whatever. She takes inspiration from all different quotes and writes amazing stuff. It's a free newsletter, but she deserves to get money for the work she puts in, right? So like contributing to her, it's just a thing that's for free.
What's it
But
called?
so there are a couple of things that really struck me. Well, they all strike you, just so you know. They're kind of for existential nourishment, right? So it's worth checking out. They're not that long. They're short little things. So one of the things, the first one is from Robert Louis Stevenson that is more about how hard it is, and that finding joy and hitting pavement into joy is actually not, it's a rare thing that we need to get better at, which is for sure true. And then there was one by William James, who, if you don't know who William James was, he was a very famous, hugely influential psychologist and philosopher around the turn of the century. He was the guy that coined the term stream of consciousness, by the way, right? And he writes about, I've read a couple of his things. They're hard because they're philosophy books, but they're one is called The Nature of Religious Experience. That's the one that I read, where basically the premise is that when you have a quote, whatever you mean by spiritual experience, your ordinary life, when you go to like clean your, the what you have to do to wash your bowl, to do the dishes, tends to disconfirm the quality of spiritual insight. I put whatever you mean by that, sacred, whatever you want, whatever your term is for that the rhythm of everyday life tends to make it hard to actually see. And the book is a lot about him trying to understand what made someone a saint, what kind of experience transforms an ordinary person into what we end up considering a saint. It's a really hard book, but it's got some really deep ideas in it that have been hugely influential, actually. But here's a line written by Marina Popova about introducing what's going to be this quote, right? To be human is continually mistake our frames of reference for reality itself. We so readily forget that our vantage point is but a speck on the immense plane of possible perspectives. We so readily forget that there are infinitely many kinds of beautiful lives. The discipline of countering our reflex for self-righteousness is a triumph of existential maturity, one increasingly rare in a culture where most people would rather armor themselves with judgment than tremble with uncertainty, would rather be right than understand. Okay, so I'm going to read that paragraph again, because that's like, and then the quote is William James. It's kind of difficult writing because he's writing 100 years ago, 120 years ago. The discipline of countering our reflex for self-righteousness is a triumph of existential maturity, one increasingly rare in a culture where most people would rather armor themselves with judgment than tremble with uncertainty, would rather be right than understand. All right, so start to exhale. Feel more. Remember, I taught for Molly and Angelique on Thursday, and these ramblings of 20 minutes, I didn't do that because Molly actually told me not to be on a word count, right? And but I taught hard for a whole hour, and a lot of you got pretty worn out by it, right? So just know my rambling is for you too, right? All right. So you start to exhale and you start to feel. Start to be in the room. It's funny when it comes to like connection and joy, we look to find it. We look outward to find it, right? That's interesting. So start to feel your feet and your sitting bones. Soften your jaw, the inside of your mouth. We're not even just centering right now. We're just like having what's happening before the class. Have you ever heard, well, probably not unless I've said it, but I remember I was in a class and Joe, my teacher, said something like, she talked about the silent ohms. Okay, so there's the ohm, like you might start a class with, and that's not, I've never been comfortable with that. And I don't like to necessarily say, like, I feel a little bit strange, for a long time, I think our classes were supposed to start with a Sanskrit kind of, I don't know, prayer, whatever you want to call it. And I was never comfortable with that exactly. And neither was she. And so she used to talk about, well, instead of saying om and chanting, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, your frame of reference is whatever it is. Whatever works for people is what you got to embrace, right? And she said, but have you heard about the silent ohms? Right? And it's like, huh. So remember, like one of the things I like to say about Om is this is how I think of it. Again, only one frame of reference, that if the universe was calibrated to sound, right? So yeah, if it was calibrated to sound, which it doesn't have to be, by the way, right? But the sound of the universe would calibrate to the utterance Om. Right? So there's both the Om that when you say it, but there's a constant Om that's silent all the time. And I remember when I heard that, I spent a lot of time, well, I still do, not like trying to find the silent Om, right? Like if you look for the sound, you've already made it an object. You've already forced it into your frame of reference, right? And like, so I sit there and go, when I think about, and I have found great, so I used to at times, because I needed it to be an object, I would say things like this to people I was in class with. I'd say, can't you hear that drum beat off in the distance? It's constantly drum. Don't you love when like people are on the corners playing for money and they're drumming? See, I freaking love when you come across someone that's really good drumming in the middle, like giving a background and a drumming beat to the ordinary bustle on street corners, right? It's like, damn, how come I'm not hearing that all the time? Like, not that I need the drum beat all the time, but the drum beat's actually going. So the drum beat was like a transitional thing for me to the silent Om, right? What if like this all did have a sound? And these damn Buddhist monks are telling you, and yogis are telling you, it, who've been sitting quiet for more hours than you and I are ever gonna do, okay? And they're coming back to the pack and saying, hey, the universe sounds like Om. But there's a silent part of the Om and there's a happening part of the Om. And when they start vibrating with the deep chant, they end up, and chanting becomes a way of vibrating with the sound of the universe, right? Becoming part of it. And it's like, you start talking like this, and I feel like a crazy person, right? Like, what am I even saying right now? And then I'm going like, well, wait, somebody's trying to leave a trail of crumbs into a way for me not to have the silent Om come before my eyes and my ears, but to recognize that the Om comes through you, that you're part of it, so you never get to see it. And so the yogis are sitting there having this imagining, or Buddhist monk or whoever, are having this realization, and they start vibrating their entire body with sound as a transcendent mechanism to wake up, right? To actually become part of something without content, without judgment. They're not oming or chanting to prove they're part of the universe. They're not trying to om or chant to open the door to the universe. They're trying to be congruent with the universe. Now, I don't know about you, but it might help you to actually, hear it as a drum beat, because it makes me not be as uncertain, right? So we'd rather, that line again from that, the way she wrote introducing the quotes was like, that we'd rather be righteous than tremble with the uncertainty. And so I start feeling absurd when I try to talk about the silent Om, but I'm just trying to tell you the kind of work I've been trying to do with it. And for God's sakes, I don't get what I'm talking about. I get it in glimpses. It's like, damn, somebody was here before me, and somebody's trying to communicate something. Now, I study asana. The one thing I don't like, I want the movement too, right? One of the great things about breath, I think, is that it can touch the unchanging or the intangible dimension, and it introduces movement. It does both, right? It somehow touches, and that's why it's voluntary and involuntary. Your autonomic nervous system is wired to your surroundings much more directly than your mind is. But it's hard to go in, and we kind of judge people. Oh, that person's new agey, or oh, that person. Well, this talk I'm doing right now about the silent freaking ohms, like, it's so easy to judge this, right? But somebody's laying for you a path of breadcrumbs that aren't necessarily the truth. It's not the only way, but they're trying to show you something. And if you pursue sets of experiences, you might get access to what they're trying to reveal, right? Where they are or where they got to isn't necessarily a better place. It's perhaps more truthful, right? At a fundamental level, before our minds start to dice the world, right? So one of the things that when I think about it, we're going to start the class now, but like when I think about this trying to open, first of all, I kind of love that the universe might have a sound, right? Because I'm auditory and I love that, right? But when I try to open to, I'm not going to evangelize the silent Om like it's the righteous. Like, if you only were a good yoga student, you'd hear the silent Om, right? But I'm going to tell you, doesn't it make you smile that maybe there is a constant thing here? Call it whatever you want. I don't care what you call it, right? And so one of the things about the silent Om, because when I try to Om out loud, my breath, I can't sustain breath. If I'm off balance, it's all these things. So I'm always feeling inadequate when I'm chanting Om or using the actual word, because I can't do it as long as everyone else. And all this shit of inadequacy starts to come, right? So for me, the silent Om turns out to be not just because I can do it better, but I like the notion of constant companionship, whether I'm moving or acting or not, right? And so what are the things, and for me, for whatever reason, the silent Om has been more powerful than the chanting Om. And I think about this, maybe you've heard me say this, but I do listen to music a lot, and I listen to lyrics. There's a song by U2 called Unforgettable Fire. And thought a lot about what the hell, I think that somehow is faith or whatever. I don't know exactly. It's a weird song. It's got a whole bunch of elements. He's more stream of consciousness, to quote William James in a lot of his lyrics, but it's always got an emotional thread. But I was thinking about, well, what would an unforgettable fire be? And this relates to the silent Om, like an unforgettable fire is unforgettable exactly because it's invisible. If it were an object, you could forget it, right? So, and I think he's talking about faith here, right? What his faith is. He's really Christian. Bono was, right? Right? But like, it's exactly because I can't hear the Om as music in my ear that strangely makes it unforgettable, right? Like, wait, it never comes before my mind. I'm actually part of the universe that makes the sound, right? So sit up straight and tall. So remember, we want some movement here. So let your spine be compressed for a second. And there's a way to go inward in like crunched bodies, right? Like the way we live too much, it's like, and it's not horrible. But one of the greatest gifts of being alive is that you get to improve at least incrementally how you feel, right? So from going from crunching and trying to release to the universe to sitting up, hitting down, moving around a little bit, right? So the crunching energy. But let's again do our normal ritual. Never get bored with repetition in yoga. I'm telling you, right? Start like getting that lightness happening. So I'm already introducing movement because I want that to be part of my centering. I want to go, damn, I want to have life spill into my empty spaces, right? Not just leave the empty spaces for my mind to judge, right? So I'm trying to create this sense of space and movement and lightness so I can hear, and then when I get in more alignment, if I don't strain too much to be in centering alignment, sounds gain texture, right? The room, the emptiness in your room. Remember one time in centering, I heard a teacher say, let the emptiness be full. Nothing changes, except the emptiness can be full. So I'm trying to have my body express the fullness, be more congruent with the fullness. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. I want a quiet underbelly of centering, right? down through them. I want to support. Remember that first step into asana, you want to do seamlessly, like coming into water without making a big ripple, right? So the movement starts to happen, but it's not plunking a rock into it. It's like having it go and also out of the water at the same time, right? So you're balance your head over your neck, open to what's behind you. Feel your core channel, the space between your sitting bones, down to your heels, and then lift the core up through your chest again. You're stretching into congruence. You're acting into congruence. If you cannot stay on balance, bring your hands into prayer. That helps you feel the midline. So I'm going to do it forward on the table here because I want to do it because sometimes it helps me to add symmetry, right? So sometimes I put my hands in front of me. You can do it with your hands in your lap. I want the symmetry between my hands and the equal pressure. And do you know how to make your hands attractive to each other? Don't just push them together. They seek each other, right? They're attracted to each other. And when I let them be attracted, my chest changes. But I like letting my hands be a representation, or hands on your thighs, to bisect right down the center of my nose, right? So I actually, and then I feel the tip of each shoulders, each sitting bones. I want to give an expression to the midline as I let in everything else. Let go of your day. Prepare your mind to do yoga. Take your outside of your mouth very gently up towards your ears as you allow the silent Om. It is something to be grateful for. Good. And then release. Bring your hands down your thighs if you're in prayer. Lift your sternum here, but move the whole universe with your sternum, right? So as this you bloom into the space around you, right? Because this space where I'm lifted was already here. I'm not creating anything. I'm actually entering a different river when I lift my chest. Wouldn't want to lift my chest all the time. But I want to know what happens when I lift my chest. I want to breathe into the blooming. So maybe the inhalation is the flower opening, but maybe the exhalation grows the stem, right? And expands the stem. So I'm in this position, sternum up, chin down. So this position for me makes me realize the stem more than the blooming. Right? Now add symmetry again, in through each nostril, each lung, each sitting bone, each foot, or right through the core channel if you're breathing through your mouth. Something expresses on inhalation. Something expands or centers on exhalation. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. So you think about these weird things that Buddhist monks are saying, you know, I don't know about you, but I've never encountered or can't quite imagine a huge lying Buddhist monk, right? That spent their life in contemplation and decided to come out to the rest of the pack and decides to lie his or her teeth out, right? Don't think that probably happens. So when you don't assume and be righteous about what's possible, when you let your frame of reference expand, how do you interpret the things they're saying? They're trying to show you something, right? They're trying to say there's part of the universe here you didn't know about. All right. And I like that, man. And even though I don't know what it is and I can't be certain about it, but I can live it. That's why I practice yoga, right? I get to feel it. Come forward, find a way to stretch your low back. You know, I think the low back matters more if you're sitting a lot, right? I really think it matters. And I want you to start to get more active now. I want you to hit down through your sit bones and lift your chest and broaden across your sacrum. And as you do this, I want you to make a connection from the inner groin to the inner knee down to the inner heel. I want you to inhabit your whole freaking body, right? I want you to have it open and bloom, using your body as a vehicle of sensation. And let the sensations in your body lead. Let them inform your mind. You're not being mindful. You're trying to have the body start to take the lead and pay attention. I can't believe how limited my mind is. It's stunning to me. Good. And then release. So this idea of when this space opens, something blooms. All right. So just gently, without any warm up, go up and over the back of your chair. Right. So, okay. So there's me just doing it. Right. And thinking if I just pay attention to my outer body. But it does help if I give my mind something to focus on. That's instructions, right? Yoga instructions. So I'm going to try to like when I lean more, before I backbend, I come forward, right? A little bit, usually. I don't just start a backbend from here. So if I just am already back behind the gravity point, then it's restricted to my upper body over the back of my chair, right? So I come forward on the front edge of my sitting bones and I find the earth, right? And I want to get connected. And I don't just want to find the earth with my eyes. I want to lift my chest a little bit so I touch the floor with my chest, right? I am going to grow out through the stem and then bloom it in a backbend, right? So now I'm going to come back. So I've grounded here. I'm even putting my forearms on my legs because I want that sensation because I know I'm going to, so now I'm changing gravity. Oh, it changes. And here's my scoliosis and I fall onto one sit bone, all that stuff. And now I'm going to go up and gently, knowing that I'm trying to expand this space into the world, right? I'm going up and over. And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to add a layer. So I'm coming forward, finding the earth. So as I come up and I know what it feels like, I'm going to go over. I want to see as I hit down and draw up, as I come and I start switching back on my sitting bones, there I want to start seeing my spine, right? And so by the time I'm going up and over, I'm actually trying to see each vertebrae coming up, right? And then when I see it from my lowest vertebrae, the meaning of my, if you take your head back, and if you get dizzy, don't do it. The meaning of the completion, it's not just here, of what happens when I include my neck in the back bend, right? But to get this space, this ending space, we're not doing the back bend yet. To get this ending space well, I have to anchor it in my sitting bones or in my tailbone. When I do it, then this space becomes more meaningful. All right, forward. Remember, I'm trying to bloom something out of the center of my chest. I know bloom sounds barfy, doesn't it? Oh well, right? So I've got the stem. I'm finding the stem. I'm shifting gravity. I'm coming into what's going to be a reach for air and sunlight, right? And I'm going to switch and watch. And right there, there's a point where my sitting bones change, the gravity changes. I want to stay there as I start coming back up, over. Here comes the burst, right? And then I'm there, and then right, instead of being in a rush, throwing away that action, I'm going to reconnect to my tailbone and lengthen the front of my neck and open between my shoulder blades at the same time, right? So back, over. Good, and then release. Only in rare cases is a plant, and sometimes they do it, like I can't believe, there's whole ecosystems they're finding way up in trees, like in the redwoods, there's whole like worlds that never touch the earth, right? And there are things that can grow out of rocks and the little moss that grows out of the rocks, right? So like you can grow without a base all the way. Some things can come out of water. Think about that, those plants that can pop out of water. Like, what the hell? That's not us, right? Right? So all this attention has been on this expansion, right? Finding the stem and then blooming. But on this next back bend, I want you to find the stem, go up, bloom. And remember, there's the only way for the stem of the plant or the flower to keep growing is by going down and spreading out. So on this last back bend in this warm up, right? I want you to get out, get bloomed, be happy about that, but refine the stem. Because once you do, this will bloom more, right? All right, so I'm coming forward. So the mind gets kind of like, damn it, why are we going so slow here? Cause, right? That's all because there was more here. So you're down, you're finding the stem. To find the stem, what are you doing? You're coming forward on your sitting bones, but what else are you doing? Right? Right? And I've already given you some ideas, like broaden across your sacrum, hit down through your sitting bones, lift your chest a little bit, find your inner heels, keep the gaze down, smile because you got company, right? And here, the silent om is still happening, right? And then shift the gravity, come up through the stem. At that point where it changes on your tailbone, on your sitting bones, stay grounded there, connect to the stem, go up and over the back of your chair, right? And then I'm gonna like as I open here and lengthen the back of my neck, I'm gonna find the stem so it's grounded. And then once I'm here and I reconnect from the inner groin to the inner knee to the inner heel, I'm going to use that to open and bloom the chest bone. Good, and then I'm going to slowly uncoil this time. Whew. All right. That's a little slow. Man, you suck all the joy out of it. by making it so slow? Where's the fun of just moving? Dang it. So on this last one, I don't want to pay that much attention to everything that's going on. Too bad. Right? Too bad. You can go fast in your own practice, right? I'm trying to like show you when and I don't practice like that all the time, but now go do a fast one. It's cool. They're actually good, right? Do all the things you usually do. Right? Oh, that's fun. I like that. One's not better than the other, right? Stop being righteous, the yoga teacher says to himself. One's not better than the other. Oh, I like that too. In fact, God, I think that makes me a little happier. What the hell? When I don't focus so hard, I get happy. All right. That makes me kind of mad. It makes me happy too. Right. And I'm stretching my rib cage because now I want my rib cage to be more felt. Enough of this inward focus crap. So where do you think the silent Om, the medium of the silent Om is? Do you think it's in your active controlled muscles? Or is it maybe not in that place, right? Forward, back open. Yep. Inhale, take your right arm up. Exhale, turn it sideways. Wait, you mean I'm moving and I have to be aware of the Om? And I can move fast and the Om doesn't change? I can move slow or fast and the Om doesn't change. Good, and then come on back to center. I'm leaning forward. I'm getting the joy of like coming back to take my arm up. I'm hitting down and rising up. I'm coming forward through gravity, finding the stem, engaging, opening, inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. You mean there's a little back bend in every twist? Yeah, yep. If you fall in love with the back bend though, you'll actually irritate your back, right? The trick in a twist is to keep auguring down as you rise up towards the ether, right? So come forward again and back. I want to take up more space because I want the base of my spine to express outwardly in this. So I'm taking my knees apart again because I need to take up more space. Right? I can tell, right? And so I'm trying to get it. Ooh, I didn't get to practice this morning, so it's like, ooh, I'm gonna have to practice later. So again, I'm like, wait, you mean like, even if I can't control it directly when I lean forward and push my own knees apart, that could be, and even if you can do it on your own, do it with help, right? Get the relationship between the shift forward and the expansion of your spine out through your knees. And then go back, right? So by adding forward momentum, traveling through gravity, the weight shifts out through my knees. Now I'm going to go back. Now this time, I'm not just going to be dull about it and do it. I'm going to, as I come forward and let awareness go out through my knees, I'm going to try to start the shift in the direction of the awareness out through each knee by expanding across my sacrum. So I'm back here, got reference here. I'm shifting gravity. I'm not just coming forward now. Now the base of my spine is going this way so I can feel and fill each leg. Now for me, that's easier. For you, you got the advantage of something, right? If you can feel your legs all the way. So I'm doing this, and as soon as I spread my sacrum, does anyone notice your chest lifts? right? Like when I spread across the sacrum, my chest gets a different level of expansion. So I can see this energy pretty well off my knees. It's much harder for me to find where my feet are, right? So I'm gonna push on one leg and go, there's the ground, right? So the imprint, the sensation of the ground imprints my brain and it goes through to my mind because I've made it sensual, not just an idea. Asana makes living sensual. Bodies add the dimension of sensation, right? So now I've got another imprint of there's where my feet are. So now I'm going to come back again. I'm going to come forward, broaden across my sacrum, lift my chest, extend out through my knees, and then hit down through my heels. Now, I hope when I go to hit down through my heels, my chest lifts again. Good time to breathe. My vessel is filling from inside to out. All right. So isn't it funny that the mind thinks more is more? So if I really think, God, I'd just do better yoga if my groins were more open, I could really crank my knees out. I could go and not be nonviolent. I could just go, oh, and there's some advantage to that. Sometimes you just want to freaking open at the core, right? So pull your knees farther apart, like go a little farther. Know that you're not doing yoga, right? But you're actually getting the groins to open some, right? And then release. And then do it with more grace again. Make everything more unified. Feel your body and the silent Om. Move and let it be constant, right? And then come on back to center. However you access that there's an unchanging part of your experience while you move or while you live your life. So I'm coming back to the midline again, because that was a long time for the legs to be wide. All right, I'm doing this again. Right. Do the midline. And now I'm gonna take my legs wide again. So that was like a brief little interlude of letting my groins come back to life, right? Or heal a little bit. So I'm really gonna find a way to, we're doing like certain standing poses right now, right? So rather than worried about, so I'm creating a really good base, right? You could do this without taking your legs wide, for sure, right? But I wanna make sure that I'm not just launching this way, that I'm creating a good base. So I'm really leveraging down on my knee. I'm actually using my armrest, or you could use your chair seat or your wheel, right? And really get this lift up, right? But now I'm going to make sure I go through the back heel. And as I do, I'm going to propel my spine into length and then release. So this would be going into Trikonasana, right? Taking time to hit, expand, open, keep the grounding. However you do it, wherever you put your hand, let your spine propel skyward while still making sure the stem stays connected to the earth. And I'm opening. Ooh. So I'm going to do the first side, and I'm going to really try to notice what's true, what's already happening. So that when I do all this attention this way and ground it more, my groin opens even more. When I open and use my rib cage. So don't fall in love with somebody that you'll end up with really sore groins. Right? I've done this before. right? So I'm really taking time to open, propel, stay with the stem, right? And then come on back to center. Bring your legs together. And then I'm doing this to heal my groins a little bit. So I'm pushing it on my knees a little bit, not forcing my, even if you can move, don't make your muscle of your groin bring your legs together. Help them together a little bit. So you create, so if you do it from, if you move your own legs, that's fine. But if you move the bones, you can create like a pool, an inverted pool that's going into the ground, right? Because you want, this was just propelling outward like a backbend, right? And I'm trying to get I'm trying to reverse the direction of what just happened in my groins by rolling my femur bones in a little bit, turning my legs down, and creating this inward action. So it finds the earth again rather than just exploding out through the groin, right? Because I need to heal. I don't want to be stiff, right? I don't want to be sore. So I'm doing the things in my practice so I keep traveling, not just in one direction, all right? And then I'm going to reawaken my spine, downward facing dog again. This class goes till 11:30. Damn it, right? So I'm lengthening my back, hitting through my sitting bones, broadening my sacrum, finding the midline, connecting the midline between my sitting bones, between my heels, to the center of my chest, opening the skin on the back body, broadening between the shoulder blades, opening my palms. Oh my God, all this is happening? Yes, it was happening whether I put it in words or not, because I'm following. Right? I can feel the pose right me. The instructions all make sense if you follow through on what's happening. That's how I can teach all these poses to standing people that I can't do, right? The instructions make themselves, right? All right. So now we're going to go back to like the simple twist up. Wait, no, there's nothing simple about how I come out through my sitting bones, right? So I'm watching, and I'm actually levering my hand, right? So I'm trying to make sure I keep the stem. So my arm goes up, and I naturally push in on my opposite leg, right? Because I want this to go into the midline. And then I'm switching gravity, and it's changing. And now I'm going to ground so I can rise, right? And I'm trying to inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. I'm trying to open while twisting the flower, the blooming of the back bend, but I'm trying not to lose the stem. Because if I lose the stem, twisting is going to irritate your low back, especially in a chair. So I got to stay with the stem. Now figure out how to use your breath. But I actually find, I think this is true, but it's at least true from my perspective. It's not great for me to try to breathe deeply while I'm twisting. Breaths need to be meaningful, but allowed to be more shallow, right? So again, inhale up, right? Find the way you can move more of the universe with you, right? Exhale, go to the other side. Ground, open, the stem stays, the chest blooms while you're dynamically twisting the spine. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Don't just go up with your twist. Stay down as you open dynamically to what's around you and above you. Good, and then come on back to center. All right, let's do it. I'm going to get space again, because now I'm going to do the same thing with less focus, right? With all these less words. And then come on back to center. I'm going to come forward again because I kind of fall into a hole on that twist a little bit, right? So here, here, here. Good, and then come on back to center. Come forward a little bit, go back up and over your chest. Keep the midline, bloom the chest, take the neck back. Good. Come forward. Bloom it from the earth. Come back. Open it skyward. Right. Good. Come back into the midline. Find your sitting bones. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, revolve. Open. So we're like having more movement here at the end, right? Inhale, lift up opposite arm. Over. Bloom. Come back to center. Find the center. Back bend. Come back through. Come to the earth. Grow it right out of the mud, right? Up, over. Come back into the back bend. Come back to center. Inhale. Up. Turn. Move. So when you start moving fast, it's easy to lose your feet and your earth. Don't. Good, and then come on back to center, right? Up, over, turn, open. I just heard Jimi Hendrix in my head. Excuse me while I kiss the sky, right? So I want the grounding to come up, right? One more time. Find it. Forward. There's flowers in the mud, baby. Overground. So I'm going down towards the earth, and then it's the stems coming up. It's beginning to bloom. It starts to go to a flower in the back bend. I open, I expand. I keep the stem. Come back to neutral. Watch the shift of gravity. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, revolve. Right? I'm going to start to turn. Wait, I kind of like this feeling. I'm going to do it a couple times here. Oh, I kind of like that coming out of the ground here. Right? Keeping the stem in the mud, but actually turning. Coming back to center. Right? You can create sequences all over the place. You can create flow patterns all over the place. So here I am again. Moving and going back and forth and trying to find a rhythm here. Right? And then go back to center. Come forward. Come onto the earth. Open with the leaves skyward. With the flower skyward. Right? Come back to center. Ooh, I better ground a little bit. We're supposed to end pretty soon. So I'm coming forward. I'm putting my forearms on my lap or on a table. And I'm going, wow, that's a lot of activity for right near the end of the class. Oh, well, I better figure out how to deal with that. I'm going to come back again. I'm going to go, oh, yeah, I remember this actually inverts the fountain, right? And drops it down. So I'm going to do that for a second. I'm going to take all that flourish, that flurry of movement, and I'm going to let it bubble back into the earth. Not just go this way into space. I'm going to take the time to go, oh no, I want the water in the ground again. Not just, evaporating in the air. And I'm going to lift my chest and go, oh yeah, there it is. So I'm going to make sure it's staying down. And I'm going to lift my chest a little bit to remember, not with strain now, to remember all the movement. Come forward. Ground on your forearms again. And you're like, don't work, but feel this space across your sacrum. Get the midline of your spine lengthening. So we're backing out. So here you've got that one part of the back bend here, the forward part. So you're lengthening from your sternum to your chin, but you're doing this in a way, don't do it hard. We're trying to like help in reverse what we just did. Good, and then release. Symmetry. You mean the ohms here? Even though my nervous system might be fluttering from the movement, the silent ohm is here? Yeah, it actually is. Right? So I'm going to use awareness of the silent ohm. I'm putting my hands on the table because I'm trying to have my hands and feet grounded. I'm going to use the awareness of the silent ohm to help the flutter of all the movement, of the flurry of movement. Because I need to do Shavasana. Now I'm more ready to feel the support of my chair. All right, so now I'm going to prepare for Shavasana. I'm going to pick to where I can actually let my chair hold me up. I don't want you to just let go of your joints. Think of your mouth as a joint, right? And your jaw as a joint. I want you to know that your ankles and your knees, and your hips, your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists, your jaw, the inside of your mouth, they hover in space. They are both in the earth, right? And they hover. Soften the skin on the face or on the temples. There's a buoyancy here that you don't have to work for, that you're studying in Shavasana. There's a hum here. If it had sound, it would sound like Om. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. Let the chair hold you up. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Think your body. Think it again. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, let the light in again. Of course, you get to choose. Exposure to light is much easier than exposing yourself to what's dark. Right? I'm going back and forth a little bit and can kind of see when I let the light in with my eyes, I kind of can feel why a backbend helps bring me into the world, right? Why backbends wouldn't have meaning without the other thing. So there's a, I think about what's a frame of reference of what joy is, right? And I wonder about that I'm really grateful that it's possible to refine the quality of the presence that I experience. So hopefully after all that class, you kind of go, wait, I kind of feel like I can feel more right now, or I can feel more than I'm used to feeling, right? And that you can do things like take a walk, like work in your garden, like whatever, that actually can transform the quality of your presence. That's something to be grateful for, right? And maybe it's joyful when you can do that. All right, hands together. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit of you in you.